Welcome to the Truth Podcast. I'm your host, Hany Rambod. I'm here with my co-host, Austin, and we're here to talk about questions and answers.
Q&A time.
Q&A.
Yeah, a very special Q&A because this is all from YouTube comments.
Yes.
Which is awesome.
So for those of you that made sure to went in and put in the questions in the YouTube comments box, thank you so much. Mm-hmm. Thank you for those that are making sure to like, subscribe, and most of all, those that are sharing, because I see the tags I'm getting on Instagram. I'm seeing stuff on Facebook. I'm seeing things from time to time, even on Twitter. But which, by the way, I do have a Twitter. I've had it for a while, and I have started going back on there. So if you are a Twitter fan, let me know in the comments also. But the questions that they have exclusively came from today is from YouTube.
Yep.
So that's where we pulled from. We had almost 250 questions or comments that were in there. We sifted through them. We meaning you, Austin.
Read all of them. All the negative ones about me. I'm in there reading. No, I'm joking.
No, we both go through there.
Yeah.
I do like to go in there, comment, especially with all the people that are giving us such a great support. And then those that have constructive criticism or they just want to hear about different topics. I am going in there. Austin's going in there. And that's what we're pulling from today. So if you're listening to this, don't forget to also rate the podcast on Apple's iTunes, Spotify, any of those platforms that you're listening to the actual podcast, because a lot of people still drive. I think since the pandemic, more have gone back to watching, where back in the day, it was kind of mixed, a little bit more even. Now it's definitely, I think, mostly on YouTube. But there's some people that are still listening to the podcast. I think
people want to watch, they want to see, I'm saying like, you're all dressed up today. I need to get some new swag, but you look like a black sheep over there. You got it's
you know what? I don't know what
Dallas.
This is called because the weather did drop. Yeah. I had to pull out the sweatshirt. I think it's about 40 degrees outside right now. It snowed last night.
What? Where?
In South Lake and Grapevine and Keller.
A little sprinkle?
I think there was about an inch on the truck.
Whoa, damn. But by the time, I didn't get that.
By the time I got up, that whole area was completely dry.
Wow.
So, but it did snow last night.
Welcome to Texas.
Yeah.
You never know what you're going to get. If you don't like the weather in Texas, wait 5 minutes.
I love it. A couple of days of snow here and there and all that. I'm totally down for that.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So we got some good questions today.
Yes.
You in for them? All right.
And also, you should see it does come in different poodle colors.
Yeah.
it's a poodle that Young LA is definitely kicking.
The only thing is you have to buzz it down every couple.
No, that's my back.
No. Okay. All right.
The hair moved from the head to the back. Now you got to trim it.
Andy, on that note.
That's right.
All right. So let's move into some questions.
Let's talk about them.
Everybody's wants some off-season updates. We kind of give some broad updates of where people are at, because obviously you have some pretty hot topic athletes.
Yes.
Everybody wants to know kind of where they're at right now.
Oh, well, the one I spoke to, the most recent, Mohammed Fouda. Mohammed Fouda is working on starting off an off-season right now.
Making some big changes.
Yeah, he's definitely moving forward. Going into the open class, you're definitely working on trying to put on a lot of size. And he had his pro debut 2 years ago. Last year, he took off because he had a couple of injuries. And now going into this year, wanting to be able to get back on stage and do his second pro show, putting on some good quality. Now it's just a matter of starting that whole process and coming off of just being able to kind of completely clean out your body, make sure that you're nice and healthy and moving forward. So he's doing that. Been going back and forth with Andre. Andre's in the same situation where he's coming off of the boat life. He was over in Ibiza for a little while. Then from there, he went to Thailand, Bangkok.
Oh my
yes,
God. He
was out there. He was everywhere.
Yep.
And so now he's got to reel it back in and start focusing on being able to train.
All season.
Again, everyone's entitled to some vacation and all that, but at the same time, now it's time to go, because January is a great time to start being able to reset. First couple of weeks, you kind of be able to just kind of get your sea legs back. And then what you're trying to do is trying to focus and be able to go to that next level. And especially with him, because he's going to have so much work to do to try to put on that size of his lower body to catch up to his upper body now, because he exclusively worked on his upper body for a long time. Even though he did train lower, it's going to still be a lot of work. So looking forward to the new season with him. And then Derek was just here. So obviously he looks really good. The video, I believe, is going to drop tomorrow on the Evogen channel. So check that out. He's going to have a chest workout on there, and we did get the chance to take his shirt off.
Yeah.
So you get to see.
In any other context, that'd be
right.
But,
right.
You know.
It's going to give you guys a lot of those out there, a little bit more content to go over on your podcast.
Yep.
Let's just put it that way.
Yep.
You know, the pot has now been stirred.
Yep.
You know,
Okay.
kind of keep it fresh for you guys out there. You're welcome. Send 10% over of all those proceeds from this video.
Well, you know, they need more to talk about. Apparently, not naming names. And then where's Hany at right now?
Hany is sending pictures over with him and his family. He's having a great time over there, enjoying being the king. So he's getting a chance to do a lot of meet and greets out there with different, just people with Evagen in Iran. I saw him post up some photos of the guys out there. Also with being able to just spend some time with his family. I'm getting ready to get some updates from him, so that way we can start kicking off his off season here pretty soon. Get that going. So, you know, obviously it's a little bit, it sucks because we're like together so much when he's here, and then it's kind of, it's just, you get to miss somebody, man. When you start to get really involved, especially as much as I do with my athletes, you're just like, oh man, what's Hany doing?
It's really one extreme to the other.
It really
especially
is.
with him.
Especially with him, because you just can't just jump on a flight and go see him, or he can't just come and see me. So it makes it much harder. But looking forward to being able to get back to at least Dubai so that we can meet up, or one of the other neighboring countries.
You were trying to send me over there, right?
You know what? I don't know, man. A little birdie told me that you might have a girlfriend now.
That is the case. That is the case.
Is it official?
That is official.
Okay.
It is official.
Okay. Well, you know what? Okay, so back on you now.
Yeah.
Somebody asked in the comments, Loki is tattooed to your forearm.
Yeah. Right there. Right there. That's for those who, I mean, obviously, people just think like, oh, massive Marvel fan, and it is from that. But it's my dog. I've had my dog for 5 years, and so that's his name. So yeah, it did come from Marvel, but I think a lot of times people are like, wow, you are a really big Tom Hiddleston fan. I'm like, well, no, I mean, it's where he comes from, the name from it. But yeah, that's my dog.
Well, I guess they got it right. At least they called it Loki and not E. coli.
Yeah, that's what I didn't realize that. That's when you see it in reverse or upside down or whatever. Sometimes you look like, I'm like, no, I didn't just get random E. coli tattooed.
E. coli, E. coli on your forearm.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got a couple different ones.
I did. Yeah.
Yeah, you went all out. Did you get the volume discount?
There's just bought them in bulk because of buy free,
is that
get
the
one
Costco?
free.
Is that Costco?
Exactly. Got a membership card, but now it'll eventually be a sleeve. Well, y'all will see it progress on the right side here as we go. So yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
Blood, Sweat, Respect.
Yep.
Our boy DJ.
There you go. Yeah, that's a good one. You know, for those who don't know, blood, sweat, respect. First two you give, last one you earn. It's a good quote. I've always liked it.
There you go.
Oh yeah. I'm not. It's not a Q&A for me, Hany.
Hey, it was.
Wow.
It was
flipping the script on
I saw
me.
it on there.
I know everybody's tuning in for me, but I'm just we don't have to always talk about me. But yeah, and then you got any Chris updates? Or did you have something else to say? It looked like you had something else to say there, but if you don't,
dude, I'll be honest with you. The biggest update about Chris Bumstead is the fact that we found out his that his dad went to Nepal at some point because he's got a brother out there in Nepal. Yeah, did you see him?
I did not see that.
Oh
no,
you haven't seen the pictures?
No. Okay. Oh, now I know what you're talking about. I was like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
Yes. Mini C-bum.
Yes, mini C-bum. Yeah, mini.
So wait, that wasn't like a deep fake.
No,
that was actually him.
That's a guy.
As I watched it longer, I was like, no,
that's a guy. You know what? If it's a deep fake, it's the best deep fake I've ever seen. It's a guy that is from Nepal. We'll load his picture up on here so you can see it. And he looks so much like Chris Bumstead, and he's got the mustache and he's got the hair, and the guy's in great shape, by the way.
Yeah,
he's
very
in
good.
Great shape.
Very good. Yeah.
And a lot of those countries, they have that really deep dream tan type of
it's almost like
color.
gold.
Yeah, they look like they're dipped in bronze.
Yeah.
And so, but he looks great, and he's posing is dead on. I mean, he's got really good posing. Yeah. And it's funny because someone said in the comments is that did C-Bum's dad end up being in Nepal anytime 25, 30 years ago? Because it looks like he's got a long lost brother.
So I thought that there was a little bit of animation in there. I guess not, but
I don't think so. I don't think so. You guys in the comments below, if you've seen it, tell me what you think.
Yeah.
But I think he's a dead ringer, man. I
had a completely random guy in a bar come up to me over New Year's, and he was like, "Do you know who Chris Bumstead is?" I'm like, "No. Who's that?" I just pretending. He's like, "You kind of remind me of him a little bit." I was like, "I think it's just like white guy beard hat."
Yes.
Yeah.
And the hat. You got You got a similar shaped face a little bit, but it's mostly the mullet and the hat.
Well, and then the guy was describing me. He's like, he's this bodybuilder who competes in this. And I was like, interesting. I don't know.
Yeah, I think, is your hair, is it like something that's been glued to the back of that hat?
Yes,
because
it is.
I don't think I've ever seen you without
completely bald on top. It's really just a little...
It's a little strip?
Yeah.
It's like a
comment and like. Maybe we'll do one without the hat. We'll see.
Yes.
See if we get there
let us know if you want to see
500 comments. 500 comments. I will do a podcast without a hat.
There you go, guys. You heard this. If you guys want to see Austin without a hat, 500 comments.
There we go.
Wow. Okay.
Right.
So Chris is in Aspen. He's with Courtney and the crew. They're out there doing what crazy Canadian snowboarders / bodybuilders / entrepreneur / influencers do, and out there having a good time. And just pray, please.
Don't hit a tree or something.
Don't hit
nothing. Knock on the table.
Oh, God. Okay. This is the nervous laugh, guys.
Yeah.
So he's supposed to be back this weekend. I think they have an event over the weekend somewhere in their backyard over there at the Raw Revive gym. Mm-hmm. And I think actually Derek is supposed to be there too.
So really?
Derek, I believe cool. Derek was on the poster that I saw. So I believe he's going to be out there. They have a bunch of athletes in the area that it's supposed to be out there. So, cool. So if you're in that area, definitely go check it out. I don't know exactly how they did the RSVP, but I know that they're going out there, and then sometime next month, then him and I are going to connect so that we can really start ripping on the off season.
Yeah, first off season together. That's going to be exciting.
Yeah, and obviously people have been asking me, what's the plan? Yeah. I think we'll talk about that when we get closer to working physically in the same gym together. But I think the biggest thing that I don't want to call it controversial, but just kind of just different is the fact that he's used to taking 3 months off.
Yeah.
So with that being said, 3 months, we're not taking 3 months off. He's already doing a little bit of legs.
Yeah.
I think he posted a video up. Calvin shot it. They did a video with him doing a little bit of legs, and he's talking about getting some blood flow going, just being able to just do some basic exercises so he doesn't feel like a skinny bitch, or as he would call it. And he's basically trying to focus on just getting that arm healed up right now. And I think the other thing that we got to worry about is just making sure that with all of the craziness that's going to start happening, the check-ins start happening, and all of those things that we need to do to make sure that we continue with progress.
Yeah.
And that's just with everybody.
Nice. Anybody we're missing in there?
I'm sure there's people that we're missing. Yeah.
But I think we covered the
lot of them.
Yeah. Okay. People want to know, do you have any car updates? Anything? Because I know we've talked about cars.
Updates.
Yeah, we've talked about cars
updates.
Early on in the podcast.
Yeah. Okay. Well, car updates. I know something happened to you. Didn't you just have something happen to your Tesla?
I will say this. The Tesla has not had any problems as a Tesla. Some of them have been user issues. Not all of them. But
user being you.
I can't help it. I got a nail on my tire yesterday. I got a cracked wheel on the other side, which stinks because these wheels are not super easy to find on this one specifically.
Didn't you say they're like $1,500 for a wheel?
It's an expensive wheel because they switched away from the ones that they use for the performance in a specific year. So I have the ones specifically from a 2020, but then pretty much halfway into 2020, they switched to a different wheel, and then have only used those ones since on the performance. And then even before that year, they used different ones. So I got to find a replacement wheel for that. Got to get the windshield replaced. Side of it's got to get fixed up and stuff.
User error.
You know what? I drive that thing though. How many
miles do you have on here?
50,000.
How old is it?
2020. End of 2020.
Yeah, you love to drive.
Yeah. Yeah. And also you live in North Dallas. You drive everywhere.
Yeah, you do.
Getting to and from.
Because everything is spread out.
Yeah, it's pretty spread out. So
yeah, it is.
But I knew that if I was going to get a car like that, I was going to take it on road trips and actually use it and not baby it too much. And I've gone a little far with that.
Yeah, it's a quick car too. Yeah, those Teslas are fast.
Yeah, it's just a thing. It'll get fixed. It'll be fine.
Yeah, but on my side, nothing crazy, nothing new. I think there's a GT3 update that needs to happen on the download on my car, on the GT3 Touring. And I'm just getting ready. I still haven't even broken it in yet because it says, every time I turn it on, it says that you're supposed to break it in at like 890 miles or something along those lines. And I'm still not even at that point yet.
Dude, that Porsche is beautiful.
Yeah, it came out
so pretty.
It came out pretty good. That PTS color, oak green metallic. think it came out really nice with the bronze wheels.
Yeah. I stopped there in the parking lot the other day. I was like, just stood there for a second. I'm like, that's a great looking car. It's a really nice one.
Yeah, didn't go too crazy. It was.
It's a little downplayed in a good way.
Yeah, yeah. It's a subdued. We call that the mature classic look. Mature classic look. It didn't go
a little
crazy.
bit more towards a sleeper while not being a sleeper because of what it is.
Yeah, but definitely want to still track out here. I heard there's a couple of good tracks, Eagle Ridge, and there was another one that Branch Warren was telling me about. So
you still have some cars back in California?
Yes. Yeah, the Viper's still back there. I got a couple cars still back there. Nice. That was can't get too far away from Laguna Seca. It's
I'll pop over there and drive it over. It's no problem.
And also with all those people in California, guys, the rain. I've been watching it. We left Cali. We left for Cali after Vegas, and then we were there for a couple of weeks, checking on Farron as a store, and then seeing family, and then Hady was there, obviously with Habib, and then we also had great weather. And then that was when Dallas was 7 degrees because that cold front hit all of the rest of the country, and then the weather was amazing there. And then when we left there to come here, it was 70 degrees. And I was like, wow, this is great winter weather. It was just like that in California. And then the California rain hit and just rivers and rivers of water. I think they said it was over 75 trillion gallons of water hit California. And some little minor earthquakes have been going on, some rumblings from what I heard up in the Bay. So I don't know down south if there's been any, but I don't know.
Just one extreme from, fires to floods.
Fires to floods. Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. So if any of you have, hopefully anybody that, if you know anyone that's been displaced, hoping and praying that you guys all are you're safe and everything. Cause in some of those areas with all those crazy mudslides, I know they're remote areas, but there are some people that still live in those areas. And I heard roads were closed. They might be closed for weeks. And the good thing is it sounds like it's dried out a bit now. But for those 3 weeks, it just got hammered where some of those reservoirs filled up to, some of them to capacity, other really large ones halfway up. But yeah, we missed it out there. But going back to the whole tracking thing, that's why the tracks, a lot of people hadn't tracked for the last month there. But I still want to try to come out and track over here because I think Formula One and tracking is becoming bigger and bigger because of that Formula One series that's on Netflix. And I've been obviously following Formula One for a very, very long time because I've been an avid racer where I'd like to go out there and track. But because of that series, a lot of people that don't follow racing now like to follow it because I think they did a really good job with it. And now next year they're going to have, or I should say now this year, there's going to be 3 Formula One races in America. So not just Austin, which is the COTA Circuit of the Americas, that's in Austin, but we're going to have, there's one in Miami. That was the first year last year. And then this year, there's going to be one in Las Vegas.
That'd be cool to see.
Yeah. So maybe we might end up having to go over there and do some product testing.
Wrap an Evogen car.
Wrap it. Yeah. It's going to cost like $100 million.
Exactly.
A Formula One car. But yeah, so far the cars have been cool. And now as the weather starts to get a little bit warmer, then start to go out, bring them out instead of bringing out the truck.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm seeing you bringing out the other ones a little bit more. All right, this one actually 2 questions. There's one that's going to shoehorn into another one, but any updates on the new facility?
Oh yeah, the new facility. I was just there yesterday. It's coming along nicely. Been painted, all the carpet's in. I would say about 75% of the flooring is in.
Nice.
75% of the bathrooms have been done now because they had to tear out these bathrooms because the building hadn't been used for so many years. The people that own the building, a rich billionaire family that's local to Texas here, own and basically use the building for most of the back portion of the warehouse and not the rest of the building for many, many years. Almost like you and I would use a sock drawer. And
it's a big sock drawer.
It's a huge sock drawer, but that's exactly how they used it. They used it for a lot of their documents, and then they ended up selling the building, and then we ended up leasing it and starting building it all out, and now it's coming around nicely. So I would say it's about 75% done now. Cool. If I had to put an approximation on the whole project, and by next couple of weeks, everything will be completed. So I'm looking forward to that. And many people are asking me about the gym.
Yep. That was actually going to be the next question. Okay. Somebody said, can Evogen elite athletes come and train at the facility, especially if they're just like visiting in town?
Yes. Yes. So it's a private gym. Evogen elite athletes, select athletes, invitation. is going to be a little bit of the preferential treatment is going to be to that, because I wanted to build something so I can be able to shoot whenever I wanted to without having to go to a gym and turning down the music and killing everybody else's vibe. So for those of you, absolute, I apologize when I do that. But it's one of those things where we're going to be putting out some scheduling. So if you are an Evogen Elite athlete, or if you do want to become an Evogen Elite athlete, you go to evogennutrition.com. You can sign up there, apply there, and we will be giving out invitations. Nice. And we're going to be talking about that as we start to roll that program out. It's going to take a little while before all the machines are all set up and everything, but because we're going to be moving in first, and then from there we're going to go ahead and start putting together a schedule.
Cool. It's an exciting time.
Yes.
It's going to be a sweet new facility.
Yeah. Looking forward to it, man. It's been a while. It's been taking me a long time to get this thing dialed in.
Yeah, it's been a long time in the making. The good question here: will we ever see a Hany Rambod documentary?
Ooh. A couple of people brought it up. Phil had his documentary. There's so many different documentaries. I saw the Kai one not too long ago that Generation Iron shot. If there's some interest, I wouldn't mind doing it. There's a lot of different cool stories, but it's one of those things that it's just a matter of how much interest there is. I mean, I think it all depends on the viewers. If you guys want to hear something more about the history of what I've done or what has happened and transpired and what I've been able to be a part of, I should say, a little bit of a tongue twister, then but I think it's one of those things where it's still continuing. But we did have a really great year, and all of the years prior to that have been amazing. So I'm not against it. It just depends on kind of what the format is and who's going to want to do it. And I think we're going to have to figure out who plays me.
It's a documentary. It's not a a feature film.
Okay, a feature film. I'm just going to have to figure out it. Yeah.
I think you could bring Brad Pitt back,
Brad Pitt.
He's still doing movies and stuff. Yeah. There you go.
Benjamin Button. Bring him back.
Okay. Any specific tips that you would give to somebody who's training over the age of 50? Anything you would do differently compared to when you're younger?
Well, I would definitely lower the amount of weight.
Yeah.
The first thing you got to do is you got to always assess where the person's at. Even if they're a competitive bodybuilder, I don't feel like you really need to be able to push PRs at that age. Even when you get into your 40s, I would really stop doing the extreme weight, because we can go down a lot of roads with this, but if you're a person who just really starts to swing a lot of your weight around, you're more likely to either tear a muscle or you're more likely to hurt yourself. And then you're going to end up being really, really depressed because you can't be able to train for months and sometimes up to years, depending on how bad the injury is. So cut back the weight, really get the mind-muscle connection going, use exercises where you really focus on those particular body parts that you're trying to grow the most, and try not to sit there and try to break PRs every workout and every week.
So it's more like training smarter, not harder in that situation?
Yes.
Okay. Got it. This is kind of an interesting one because I've heard, different people having different thought processes on this. Like this comment says, I've heard multiple different coaches talk about this, but does a StairMaster really help to achieve a better, say, glute ham tie-in and improve your glutes by doing cardio on the StairMaster?
Yeah, every single piece of cardio equipment will focus a little bit differently on your lower body. So StairMaster can definitely help glute hamstring insertion, but treadmill can also help at an incline. Using the bike can definitely help with some leg fullness, whether it's recumbent or a regular bike. And I think the biggest thing is you have to try to figure out where that mind-muscle connection is. So mind-muscle connection doesn't only work for the actual exercises you're doing weights with, but it also works on cardio, believe it or not. So what you need to do is also figure out how you want to do your cardio. Do you want with a little more tension to be able to really feel that pump? People used to make fun of me, and it's just so stupid. And I remember this now, just thinking about it, because I would give pre-workout before cardio. We'd run EVP before cardio. This is very back 15 years ago, 14 years ago. And people are like, why would you give that? That's so stupid. The guy doesn't know what he's talking about. Well, okay, well, let's break it down. I used to read these comments and I just laugh and I wouldn't even respond because I would just focus on what I needed to focus on.
Comments on what?
Just wherever. It would be some of the boards.
Oh, got it. Because I was like,
back in the day, because people, the boards. It wasn't like I would maybe Facebook.
Got it.
I can't remember, but the boards too.
Got it.
And they were like, well, he's got these guys doing this. It's so dumb. Why would you do that? It doesn't help you burn fat. Well, no, because it would just help with blood flow. And so very similar to what you would use pre-workout for, whether it's stim or non-stim based before your workout, I would do the same thing with my cardio. So if I need somebody to be able to work on their legs and I can create more tension and just slow things down a bit, I would do that, and I would do a pre-workout beforehand. So I would run at the time EVP, which was non-stim, which is now EVP 3D. And I had that because my first product didn't have stim in it. There was no extreme. That just kind of was created because so many people asked for a stim, and then I came out with it later. But the original product, which was EVP, I would give to some of the athletes before they would do their cardio. And then that would help keep their legs a bit fuller. And it just a little bit was trial and error. Hey, how does this feel? Theoretically on paper, this could work. How does it feel? And they'd give me feedback. Absolutely. I feel like my legs are fuller, even though we're doing fasted and we're doing something right, rolling out of bed. Yeah. But they would keep their legs fuller. So I would turn around and add it in certain athletes' programs. And
do you have them like prioritize, like, so for instance, with this question, like flexing, because obviously the shows that I've been at so far with your athletes, even with David Butler, Derek, and Hany, in my opinion, nobody's glutes compared to either of those three in the shows they were in. Like that was a very noticeable thing. Flipped around, glutes were very noticeable. Do you have them focus on that when they're, say, walking on a treadmill or walking on a StairMaster?
Sometimes, but I think also it depends on just their stage of leanness.
That's true. Yeah.
I think it's also just a stage of leanness. So it's not just exercises, it's not just cardio, but it's also, have you pulled enough body fat off to be able to really see the glutes and make sure that they're really dialed in. So it's a combination, because if you don't pull back enough body fat off that person, really lean them out enough, I don't care how many glute bridges you do and you can walking lunges you do or any of those things, it's not going to show up if you're not dieted off. You know, if you haven't dieted the body fat off. So you need to do that. So again, it's not just purely cardio. A lot of it has to do with diet. You don't get abs in the gym, you get abs in the kitchen. Yep. You know, so.
This one's pretty interesting. This is going to be talking about, is it beneficial to do random sets throughout the day? I work in a gym, and sometimes when I'm walk by the dumbbells, I'll just do some shrugs or lateral raises throughout my shift.
What's funny is I used to do that. Back when I was working in the gym, if I knew I was super packed throughout the day, I would go in and train for 5 or 10 minutes. And then in between clients showing up, and then in between the next clients showing up, I would continue. And especially the days where I couldn't train. But would I prefer to do that versus actually getting an intense training session? And no. Only when I knew I was so packed back to back clients that I didn't have time to train later on, because it's going to be either so late that I'm going to be exhausted, I'm going to have a really shitty workout, or that it was supposed to be something I just knew I couldn't fit in for whatever reason. Then I would do that, but it's not my preference.
Okay. Got it. Now this one, I'm actually going to tack a little piece on in the end, because I'm curious to get your thoughts on it. But this gentleman talks about having multiple surgeries on his femur, so on his leg, that has created a pretty large scar, and wants to know if you think that would affect and be a markdown in bodybuilding. And the part I'm going to tack onto that is your thoughts kind of with scarring, but also say tattoos, for instance, when it comes to bodybuilding. Do you think
the guy that said, you're saying this because you just went and got a bunch of tattoos? I'm
just, I'm trying to keep them in certain areas, but I am very curious to kind of hear, like, what do you think? Because obviously, like Chris has tattoos, but just on the forearm, or I know that certain bodybuilders do, but they keep them away from certain areas. Do you think that that's a serious markdown, or are they consider?
Okay, so let's talk about this in two different segments. Number one, scars.
Yes.
Most of the time, scars don't make that much of a difference, because by the time you get color on, and you won't really see them. Now, if you are a smaller minority who have very major scars, could it be distracting? Absolutely. But that's really hard to say, because I feel like the majority of scars aren't big enough and they're not prominent enough in those areas that are going to be a detriment to be a drop down in a placing. But could it be possible? Absolutely. If it's going to maybe be across a complete like pec, and it's just something that's just really makes it look very awkward, Could it possibly mark you down? Yes. But it's just, I think you have to see that for each person and incident by incident in terms of what that person has to deal with in regards to the size of the scar and maybe how much is affecting the muscle belly as well. Because if it's some really massive gash, it could be very, very distracting. Yeah. On the flip side, when it comes to tattoos, it's the same thing. How distracting is it to a physique? I've seen some girls who have full sleeves. I used to train one, and she ended up having a full sleeve, and she was very tatted up. She looked fine. The judges actually liked them because they were very tasteful tattoos, and she looked great. And she got into a really bad car accident, and I don't know all the details. I heard about it from back in California, and she Ashley, and she ended up passing away from a car accident. That's terrible. And something about it, I believe something what I heard with the train. And may her, rest in peace. But I just, but she had some, very beautiful girl, had great, symmetry, helped her get her pro card, and she had some awesome tattoos. Didn't bother her. Now, if somebody's really just covered in them and they're doing bodybuilding, it can be distracting. I've even seen tattoo cover up done on some athletes. I don't recommend getting a ton of tattoos if you're really into bodybuilding, or wait till when you're done. Dorian Yates, I think, got a ton of tattoos afterwards. It's the best time to do it when you're done competing, but sometimes it doesn't affect you too much. And if you have smaller ones and you put them in places where it doesn't affect you as much when you're posing, then that also helps out. But yeah, I've seen some tattoos that are very tastefully done.
Got it. So it's kind of on board with the scars. It's just case by case.
Yes.
Whatever you got. Got it. Hypothetical question. Would you ever work with a vegan or vegetarian athlete? And do you think a vegan or vegetarian could be at the top level?
No, I don't think that you can really get to a top Olympia level in at least open. Now, if you're genetically very gifted, is it possible? Yes. Is it probable? No. Again, why is that? Leucine concentrations of vegan proteins are lower. There's just, and leucine is the king of the amino acids when it comes to mTOR and everything that has to do with muscle building. So can you, the follow-up question is going to be, well, can you add more leucine? Absolutely. But given that I've only worked with serious bodybuilders that were non-vegan, and I have worked with vegan bodybuilders, everything from regular vegetarian to vegan to everything in between, I haven't seen anybody be able to really go to the next level. When I say the next level, I'm talking about like a top Olympia person with that. So unless you're very, very gifted, I think it's going to be very difficult for you to be on that top 5, top 10 as any kind of vegetarian bodybuilder. Now, if you're natural, or if you're, let's say, in a smaller weight class, is it more probable? Yes. But as an open Mr. Olympia, it's very, very difficult, if not impossible.
Got it. There's a question of asking, are you adding new programs to the FST7 app?
Yeah, I just did. I think I mentioned it on one of the other podcasts. I did a chest/arm specific program. That program has been uploaded. It is in the system, and I'm going to be adding another one next month. So I'm going to be continuously adding new programs to it. We did launch, by the way, the new Android. So if you are listening to this and you are in the past, you yelled at me because Android was not launched yet, and you're looking for a app that's going to give you workouts along with FST7 built into it, everything from partials to flex sets and everything in between with my philosophies. I spent a lot of time on building that app out, and I'm very, very proud of it. So, and if you already have the app, please make sure you don't forget to go out and put reviews on it on Apple. But it is available on my website, HanyRambod.com. Use code Hany. You can go ahead and get 25% off, and you get 2 weeks free. So no obligation. You get 2 weeks free. If you don't like it, go ahead and cancel. It doesn't cost you a dime. You get 2 free weeks of just awesome workouts. And if they're not that awesome to you, don't have to pay for them. And if you think you like it and you want to continue it, then you can go ahead and continue. So again, HanyRambod.com. Link is down below. And a bunch of different new content Chest and Arms is on there right now. That's the latest, greatest one. And then I'm going to be working on a couple of other programs I'm going to be uploading next month.
Awesome.
So Android, for those Android, stop complaining. It's there.
Y'all, you know what? Y'all asked, we answered. There you go. So, that's the whole thing. This is a very serious question. I think I'm very curious to hear.
Dude, everything we talk about is serious.
A very, very, very serious question here. And I had never even thought about asking you this, but I'm really glad that this guy did. Hany, what's your take on instant noodles in a diet?
Like cup of noodle?
Or like ramen? Like top ramen?
Cup of noodle?
Yeah, I had never even thought about that, but he wants to know what your take are on instant noodles.
It just depends on what you're trying to do with them. I mean, I don't think they're great for dieting for a show, but if you need to eat noodles because you're off season and you're looking for a carb source, by all means, just remember though, most of those types of processed foods are very, very high in sodium.
A lot of sodium.
So if your face starts to swell up and you look like you got bit by mosquitoes, and you're just swollen, you literally like all over your face, then you'll know why. If you got high blood pressure and you're supposed to limit your sodium because your doctor says, hey, you got to really watch your blood pressure, then you got to watch the sodium. All of these things have to be taken in consideration, but they can be done. Just like some of these people are doing, I think, we talked about Hunter Labrada, he likes Rice Krispie treats. There's some different cereals. Some people can get away with it. And to take this question a bit further, processed foods, especially if you're on a budget, are maybe something that you have to do because you don't have an option.
Are you just more or less keeping an eye on just macros? Like if it fits your macros, essentially?
Pretty much. Yeah. Because what has to happen is that you're wanting to turn around and be able to use carbohydrates post-workout, and you're like, I don't have a lot of money.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go out there and, get this, carb source that, whatever, carb source is expensive. I don't know what comes to mind nowadays because everything has kind of gone up because of inflation. But there's certain things that when I was in college, what I would do is when there was a great sale on chicken, I would load up. I would throw the extra chicken breast in the freezer. If there was a sale on beef, I would freeze it. Is it the best? Is it the freshest? No, but you're on a budget.
Yeah.
You're trying to do whatever you can. I'd buy 10 or 15 pounds and I would turn around and I would also tell the butcher to go over there and grind it for me and make it into a ground beef. So they just grind it up in the ground beef machine, and then they would even trim it before they would put it in there. And then they would go ahead and slap a label on it and say, it was $2 or $3 a pound because it was on sale. And I would do that. There would be all kinds of stuff that I would have to do to try to save money because you're trying to make sure you were trying to be a baller on a budget. So that would be, and one of them is, let's say if you have to get a cup of noodles or you got to do whatever you got to do, I can remember some of those things were like 10 for $1 or something crazy.
I would get the, which they were also high in sodium, but just needed back when I was just working at GNC, but just powdered mashed potatoes.
Okay.
It was just straight carbs. And all you had to do was just throw them in a thing with some water and microwave it. And I didn't have a refrigerator where I was working in the back there. And so that was the carb source, was that. And then sometimes we just chug some protein with it. But they're actually pretty decent garlic mashed potatoes and stuff. But sometimes you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah, I think that wasn't the cup of noodles Spider's favorite? Spider, are you on?
I'm here.
Our podcast engineer Spider, we were talking something about some noodles earlier.
Well, speaking of being poor, it was summer after my freshman year in college. I stayed around, tried to take some classes, was trying to do exactly what you're saying, whatever I could. So I got a case of cup of noodles. Like it was this huge case. Ate them for a few weeks, I think, and then ended up with kidney stones.
Oh, you had kidney stones for a week of eating cup of noodle. How many cups did you do?
3 a day.
Whoa. 3 a day for a week?
Yep. I think it was
only
a couple
week.
Weeks.
No water.
A couple. Very, very little water.
Yeah, very little water.
The water was
sodium.
Exactly. The water was coming out of the cup of noodles.
Yeah, that's how you stay hydrated.
Oh man, I'm drinking some more water.
Well,
kidney stones.
Actually, the next question does shoehorn in with somebody that you mentioned, because obviously you had mentioned Hunter Labrada like blending meals.
Okay.
And there's a guy saying here that he's been having trouble getting in calories, so he's been blending his meals. Is that a bad idea?
Ooh, okay. I think it's a short-term solution for a long-term problem. So what you need to do is you need to say to yourself, do I have to do this? Okay, I may have to do it. I had gum surgery, or I had a tooth pulled. I have braces put in. I can't chew. For whatever reason, those are short-term problems. if you end up having a long-term problem and you're trying to make that into a long-term solution, I think you need to try to pivot and try to create something where once in a while it would be okay. But if you have to do that for multiple meals, multiple times a day, it's just going to be like, what's causing this issue?
Yeah.
Because you don't want that, because your body's ability to digest food. And I've heard all kinds of stories. I think even somebody told me Flex Lewis used to have to do it sometimes, or Brandon Curry. I can't remember who, because again, I've heard little bits and pieces from a lot of people. Again, if you are listening to this podcast, try to stick to being able, because just part of the digestion and the digestive system working in its entirety is important. But from time to time, if you want to just throw something together, no problem. Just like, I've taken oats before and put it in protein powder and egg whites and throw in some yogurt and put in some honey, a banana, and some ice cream, and I made a weight gainer before.
Yeah.
And that's awesome. But if you want to turn around and take chicken breasts and then try to have to make that into liquid mush, the last time I had to do that was for my Great Dane. When I was growing up, I had a Great Dane, and that was the formula for the Great Dane, because when he was taken away from his mother, they weaned him off and they said, when you take him from the breeder, this is the food that you need. And I did it for a short period of time because that was recommended, but we would take whole chickens, put them in a crock pot, and that crock pot would get to the point where the bones would become so brittle that you could just mash them up. Take the chicken, quarter it up, put it into a blender, blend it, so you get just all protein and fat. And it was just
even all the collagen and all of the
everything, nutrient dense, rich. And then you're supposed to just pour that right into his bowl, and that's what he would eat. And he would grow a half a pound a day, an inch a week. And that baby Great Dane just grows very quickly. And then eventually rice was added to it. And then there was like a whole protocol that the breeder had me do. And with my dog, he just was super huge. That's the name. That's where I got these super huge.
Yeah. For the record, this is only for Great Dane puppies. If you go do this, you're not going to be getting half a pound a day and an inch a week if you do this. So don't go out, and there's a lot of crazy people out there.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't do it. I would do it only, like, again, I did it for my Great Dane. If you have a Rottweiler, you have any other species of dogs you're breeding, they might be doing something similar. But that was one of the things that the breeder had given me in terms of like, here, this is what I think, when did I have him? When I was 19?
Thor.
Yeah.
Thor? Loki?
Well, he had it,
Yeah, no, like mine just eats whole raw drumsticks, crunches but he eats the bones raw and swallows the whole bone. But ever since doing that is like one of the best things ever done for him. Super, super, super healthy. Yeah. Just raw meat and everything. But I haven't tried the whole, blend. I feel like that'd be good if it was, if he was sick or something and needed something very simple and easy to digest. But yeah, the whole, I don't know. I think that like I'm seeing that more and more, and I've kind of seen it over the years. I remember one of the very first introductions I had to bodybuilding was watching, I think it was like a little Vice mini documentary on this woman who was a female bodybuilder, and she would batch cook all of her meals for the entire month. And it was just 6 baggies per day with a certain amount of rice, a certain amount of cabbage, boiled cabbage, and a certain amount of chicken breast. And she would take 6 of those a day, throw in a blender, water, drink it, and would just drink 6 of those per day for the entire month. Oof. And it was just like, I saw it, and I can't believe that didn't scare me away from bodybuilding.
That's a cringe moment.
Yeah, it's pretty rough.
See her looking that great with that.
But there's just, I think that's a big thing right now, especially because I know Hunter's mentioned it, and I think that's becoming a conversation.
Like I said, if you guys want to go ahead and put something together, like a special concoction for post-workout, which is protein, carbs, or you have a breakfast pre-workout that you like to mix up and do that with, it's almost like a protein pancake, right? You take some oats, you take some egg whites, you throw a little Splenda, you throw a little cinnamon, you throw a couple of scoops of ice-eject protein. Yeah, there you go. And what I would do is, that's literally was my protein pancake. You throw that together, and it's gluten-free, especially those of you that have a gluten intolerance, and it works great. But it's not something that I would recommend doing all the time. Yeah. But if you want to do meal 1 and meal 6 like that, or meal 1 and 3, not a problem. But if you want to do that every single meal, I think your body's going to end up having problems long term. Yeah. That's just my personal opinion.
Hany, would you ever train a natural athlete?
I have. I have many times. Yep. I mean, hadn't done it in a while until David Butler, and boy, has he blown up. Yeah. He's getting not only bigger and stronger and everything else, but he's also on social. I was just looking at social the other day. I think he's got like 500,000 followers, and he had 400 followers when I met him at the front desk at Absolute.
Wow.
Yeah. He had no TikTok. I think now he's over a couple 100,000. And then he had 300 or 400 on Instagram. 100 people.
Yeah.
And that was it. And I told him, start your TikTok. I'll see you'll blow up.
Mm-hmm.
And lo and behold. And he's also, like I said, he showed me his updated pictures that he sent over to me last week. And I think you and I should go do another video with him.
Yeah, I think so too. I think we're gonna grab
a little update.
Yeah, we're gonna grab some different content with him tonight. But I think we should set up another workout because those have always done well. I think people are always very interested to see what you'll do with a natural athlete, and he's filling out nicely.
Yeah,
he looks good.
Yeah, we definitely got to get in the gym with him. He's working out hard. Updates really, really looking good. And I see him every time I'm in the gym because he's working in there 9 to 5.
Yep. All right, so I got one more question.
Okay.
I'm going to change it a little bit for selfish purposes because I think this would be interesting. The person asked for the top 3 exercises for each body part that you could choose for the rest of your life if you could only pick 3 for each one. But we're going to be getting into a lot of different stuff. So let me just say this. What would be the top 3 back exercises if you could only pick 3 for the rest of your life? Because I feel like for some of the other body parts, it's pretty self-explanatory, but I feel like that'd be interesting to hear.
3 exercises for each body part.
Yeah.
Okay, so for back, I would say a pull-up, a row.
Any specific row? Barbell row?
Yeah, barbell.
Over or underhand?
I love underhand rows.
Yep.
That would be the second. The third, that's tough. I would have to say either it would be another variation of a row, like a one-arm dumbbell row, or a pullover. Yeah, one of those 2.
Cable pullovers?
Or machine pullover. Like a pullover machine.
Do you have another body part you want to throw out 3 exercises for?
I mean, legs are easy.
Yeah.
I would just say leg curl, leg extension, and squat.
Yeah.
I mean, those are just the go-tos.
I know that I was surprised when I remember at a previous podcast, I asked you what your number 1 piece of equipment was. You only had to pick one. I believe you said the belt squat, which is very surprising. I was not expecting that one.
Yeah, I love the belt squat because
I saw The Rock using it earlier today.
Was he?
He posted it, yeah.
Yeah.
Belt squat.
I think the belt squat takes off so much pressure off of your back.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of these issues that a lot of people are talking about right now have to do with nerve endings that are being just literally crushed by people having back problems from heavy, heavy squats. And I think a lot of that is just due to the fact that they're not thinking long term about their spine health. And I feel like all of you athletes out there, whether it's your males or females, you have to consider your spine as something that's very similar to like now a lot of coaches that are in the NFL and just in a lot of different professional athletes and sports. They look at shoulders and knees, and you have to look at your spine. I don't know why. Bodybuilding, your spine is so important. And I feel like the compression of discs have a lot to do with it. And I talked to Farronez a lot about it because Farronez obviously is a chiropractor. And it's one of those that I feel like people don't put enough emphasis on. I think they did for a little short time, maybe early 2000s. Ronnie Coleman used to talk about it a little bit. But I think that even with all of the things that he did to proactively try to recover and be able to get therapies,
there's only so much you can do when you're training so heavy.
700-pound squats and crazy deads.
Yeah. All
of those things eventually will catch up to you. And I think you have to really consider how you can try to work around some of those different problems.
Yeah. Yeah, because you had, I know in the previous podcast or the one before Derek, you had mentioned something about the nerve damage and things like that people are experiencing. And I know that there was a lot of questions about that. And so I think that you had, said we might want to cover that on its own subject.
Yeah, we will. But I mean, we can talk about it right now a little bit too, because with FSC7, that's one of the reasons why I created FSC7, because I wanted to engorge the muscle with blood to create a more 3-dimensional image of that muscle while it's on stage. So it's not just the graininess, but it's also that roundness and that fullness. And that's what comes with volume training. Yeah. So the density comes from heavier weights. But if you limit that and you just make sure that you work within a guidelines of, it needs to be a certain amount of resistance. You can't just use light weights or medium weights. You got to use heavy, but without getting too crazy where you end up having a risk versus reward. So you'd be like, okay, now if I have to risk here, but the reward is here, then you got to be able to say, okay, is it really worth it for that extra 50 or 100-pound squat? How about if I just increase my reps another 3 to 5 reps? I'm going to get a lot more time under tension out of that. I'm going to get more mind-muscle connection out of that. I'm going to be able to keep my form together. I'm going to be able to make sure that I'm not going to destroy my back or my knees. I'm less likely to get hurt. So many different things. And I feel like you have to really take all those things in consideration. And then when you do FSC7, then you have shorter rest periods.
Yeah.
So then you can really work on being able to try to do that. And then you do FSC7 supersets where you're doing 2 different exercises back to back to engorge the blood, the blood flow into that muscle so that you can stretch the fascia and get even rounder and fuller and just really trigger a hyper response. So all of those things that I discuss a lot, or I used to, even back 20 years ago, it really is important. But I feel like one absolute method is not what it's about. It's about trying to be able to find your formula for what your body needs and how your body grows the best. Because when I train somebody, I don't sit down and say, okay, this is all we're going to do.
Yeah.
Or I'm going to say, okay, well, let's increase the volume here, but where are the other body parts that we can be able to get a little bit stronger still? Because a bigger muscle is a stronger muscle, but where can we handle more volume on other body parts? So again, you can go and look at different body parts like Dorian. Dorian would be a great example because I go, man, I was huge fan of Dorian, still am. And I feel like he had such graininess to him, but what if he did more volume in his arms? How could that have looked any different? It'd be great to be able to go back and say, okay, if you had the 1985 DeLorean and you jump back and say, go back to the future, and you can go back and say, okay,
I thought you were saying Dorian wrong. You were literally saying get in a DeLorean.
No, I said if I could get in
the DeLorean to Dorian. Got it.
Yeah,
okay,
the DeLorean car, which is the car from Back to the Future. And then you go to see Dorian Yates, Mr. Olympia. And then you say, hey, what if he did some of this? How would his body, if he went down to that altered universe?
Yeah.
Right? If you went down that altered universe, how would he have looked if you would have added volume training to his arm workouts? Because he had this crazy dense back, and that was amazing. So I don't think that needed to change. But what if he did some more volume through his arms? Would he have looked different? It would have been a great experiment in time.
Yeah. That is one interesting thing about just the sport of bodybuilding is you can kind of throw those hypotheticals out there. Like, what if the certain things that we have access to now were available in the 70s? How would that have affected them? What would those guys have looked like back then compared to what we have now? I've seen some videos on that recently, but yeah, that's all I got question-wise.
No, that's awesome, man. Thank you guys all so much for all the questions. Yeah. Go ahead and leave your questions below this particular thread on the YouTube page. Austin, thank you very much. Anybody that knows anyone that can help him out with the Tesla rim, let us know in the comments below as well. Again, Hany, Rambod, Austin, and that's the truth.